Okay, this is retrofitting and trees with David Mora from the Department of Ecology. He's worked at the Department of Ecology since 1993. He's done spill response and assessment, water quality monitoring, and stormwater retrofit grants. He has a master's degree from Indiana University in environmental science and a Bachelor of Science from Bowling Green.
Hi. Thanks for taking the time to come see this presentation. Hear me out. I'm here to draw attention to trees and their special role in stormwater management. A lot of folks helped me with this presentation and collecting data. Still, I take the blame for any mistakes I've made, got wrong, oversimplified, or added to confusion. There is a lot to talk about and so little time, so a lot of effort went into chopping this presentation down to fit it in our window. Our stormwater grants are a great opportunity to learn about what's happening out there. They're built in accordance with stormwater manuals, our stormwater manuals, and we have projects across the state. We collect a lot of valuable information. There's a lot to learn, including about trees and fire retention facilities and trees and stormwater in general. A quick refresher. I'm sure most of us, a lot of us have biology backgrounds of some sort or another, and they realize that trees are really important and they can play it and do play an important role in stormwater management. Of course, when the tree grows up, it has a canopy, and that canopy extends outward and provides an opportunity for rain not to even hit the ground. It's intercepted, evaporates right off the leaves, and so much for that stormwater. I'm sure I didn't surprise anybody with that last statement about trees, but also, of course, think about the biomass of the tree and all that tree turned into wood and carbohydrate. Think about evapotranspiration, keep those leaves out there and working, and how the tree respirates. All that stuff comes together, infiltration into the soil. All these things help trees help stormwater, all that water consumption and use. In addition, trees are important to water quality treatment. They work with our fungal community, providing food for them, and deeply involved in nutrient cycling to help with those sort of pollution issues. And of course, they help with infiltration. Okay, the tree debate. Why do we debate about trees? Well, they're really valuable, and but how much value are there? There's uncertainty and benefit. Sure, we love trees, but the interaction between trees and urban forests and stormwater has been relatively unstudied, and there's a need for more studies that directly address water quality and water quality benefits. Even if we did know what those benefits were, we'd still have some issues about trying to decide on what those benefit units would look like. Is it, as we see now, square feet of impervious mitigation? Would it be some sort of flow control volume or volume of, equivalent area volume or area? Could be urban canopy creation, some other kind of eco units. Then we have to think about things like quality of life and the value of redevelopment versus sprawl, environmental justice. And then of course, there's this idea of somehow we can turn everything into dollars. Again, the standard right now is in the manual is this idea of you can turn the benefit of a tree into an impervious surface mitigation. Okay, the love-hate relationship of trees. We love trees, but we hate installation and maintenance costs. We love trees, but what about if we put trees in it and we lose parking? What if to put in our fire retention facility, the only place to do it is to take out a big tree? That's a love-hate thing. We love the benefits of the water quality facility. We hate utility conflicts. We hate the loss of a sidewalk or a bike lane or a driving surface at times. We hate the disruption to our urban areas, especially heavily urbanized areas. It's very difficult. a lot of people aren't going to be happy sometimes, even if the long-term benefits are there. Trees take time to grow up. You know, to get to that tree that's going to intercept a lot of stormwater, it takes time. Then there's the issue of whether or not we invest all this in a tree, and what if it doesn't make it? There's a risk of damage to infrastructure. I've heard some talk about the risk of tripping and falling. Heck, the mayor yesterday gave talked about a lawsuit. You know, for depressed areas, people could even drive into it. And then there's this idea, we love the idea of speedy infiltration, but what if somehow we're missing something and we're not getting the treatment we hope for? Okay, so part of this was I put out, I'll give so people still participate in this, but we sent out to permittees a poll on what they thought about bioretention facilities and trees. Generally, what you'll see is to what degree does maintenance impact your bioretention maintenance? Yeah, so another question I asked was, do you see water quality value to including trees within your bioretention facilities? And most folks did feel that there was benefit to that, but some folks didn't see it. Then we just asked the plain question, and within your municipality, do you have a lot of bioretention facilities that include trees? And only a small fraction of the municipalities have a lot of those. Most show that they had a few. And then one final question we asked is, does it depend, on location and other logistic features of your view of trees and bioretention facilities? And about half of the respondents, and there were 44 overall of folks such as yourselves, that's what they came up with. Yay, I drew that out a bit. Okay, so in 2013, EPA put out a publication, a call for stormwater street trees. And the idea was the bigger the tree, the better as far as stormwater benefits go. But to make that happen, you have to be able to overcome the difficulties of trees. And their idea was this can be done through engineering. Common problems that we'll run into with trees, why they fail, why they cause problems: compacted soil, the tree pit can be too small, this lack of soil for root growth and uncompacted area. And then sometimes when trees are put into, street trees are put in, of course, doesn't help to put impervious surfaces over the tree growth area. So in the EPA's call out, they suggest ways to overcome this are providing uncompacted surface by floating paved surfaces on engineered things like solar cells and so on. And then there's other ways you can uncompact the soil with structurally engineered soil and so on. But the idea is give the roots space, and a lot of the damages and the types of things that happen won't happen. I asked, without telling people exactly what I meant by engineered trees, how many folks felt that they had been using these sort of practices already? And about half the respondents said yes. And a little bit has said no. Okay, so for our stormwater grants, Spokane has some great examples of the use of silva cells. I've got several supplemental slides, but I can't include them in here. But you can see that they're using the silva cell structure on the right to provide that floating surface for the sidewalks and allow the trees the opportunity to grow. This is a picture of that when it was installed, silva cell with the tree. It's great to look at Google Earth to see how that tree has progressed over the years. Street map view. Okay, so the next topic I wanted to talk about was ecology funding and stormwater grants. This is called out in our grant guidance for combined funding program. But basically, if it's in the manual, it's something that's probably going to be eligible. So that includes trees that are a functional part of a stormwater facility that's approved in an ecology approved manual. So this is the standard idea of trees in bioretention facilities. These trees are still fairly young, and they're, at least this tree here is kind of columnar, but you can see how the benefits could go get there. Also though, I don't know if a lot of folks were aware of this, but facilities such as the one I discussed, silver cells and so on, are eligible. And we've got a couple grants or a few grants now that have put these in. I'd like to see more. One's in Carnation here and the other in Spokane. So if you're wondering where the list of functionally equivalent to bioretention is, it's actually on the tape page at the very bottom. You have to keep on scrolling down, but there is a list of functionally equivalent to bioretention, and many of those are suitable for planting trees. Okay, also in the manual, of course, is this idea of a standalone flow control tree. In the manual, it calls out design criteria. This is the Western manual. Need to know the size, species has to be appropriate. The location has to be within distance of impervious surface. You have to be able to call out how you're going to take care of it or replace the tree. And then, like I showed that slide before, there's the idea of how much credit do you get in mitigation. And then we also have a category that hasn't been used too much, this idea. It's related to what we were just talking about if you depave an area, you can at least get some of that credit as a BMP for taking the parking lot and turning it back into the forest. We haven't seen a lot of that, and there are a lot of opportunities to do that, but it's definitely something we're glad to see when something like that happens. Okay, so possible eligibility changes. These are things that I put together. We haven't formally had these debates within our team, but in light of funding that's coming together from other sources for urban forestry, there is some question about whether or not we should be funding just tree-only grants, even if they are flow control design trees. Should we be asking that trees have a full design, just like a facility? I think there's a lot of argument to make for this, that you need to have a design accepted as 1 year of a grant, and then if you came in again after you worked out all the details and showed that you had a proven design, come back with your installation or implementation grant. Then there's some ideas that have come up that people have asked during grants is, do we have to use all bioretention soil media, or could we take some of the area and use soil that the tree is going to thrive better on? Is it really going to hurt the performance that much? And then another idea that seems to be something we should think about if all of a sudden we're getting a lot of just tree applications is perhaps we need to be thinking about whether or not trees have to have coupled with an actual treatment BMP. So if that pink area is your contributing basin and the brown spot is a facility, those trees would be eligible as long as they're within the contributing basin and within distance of impervious surface, and then those outside of that would not be. Ask the question, do you think tree eligibility should be expanded or not for a grant program? And there was some support for that idea. Again, they hadn't seen this presentation to know what I was talking about exactly. Okay, so next, there's a lot of fear that I've talked about that people have with trees. Whether or not they're going to make it or not is a big question. Are they doing a lot of damage to infrastructure? So I went out this winter and looked at a lot of trees, dragged people with me, and we looked at tree locations in stormwater tree locations in Spokane, which has the most for a grant program. So they are the champion of bioretention in trees, including the Silva Cell facility. Looked at a facility in East Wenatchee. If you want to go across the river there's some quaking aspen there. They're doing fine. And then several other locations we went to across Western Washington. So our method, I'm not a horticulturist or tree expert, so I had to do the best I could. I had some other ecologists, biologists with me. We went out and looked at trees, did the best we could to identify them. And, you know, in the wintertime, it's a little tougher, but the big thing we were looking for was, are they alive and, or not, or are they missing? And here's our results that we got. So I map out, when projects are completed in GIS, I map out the BMP footprints for all of our facilities. And of 570 bioretention facilities, a surprisingly high number, maybe drawn up by Spokane, but a large number of them actually have trees in them. And of 213 facilities I looked at, we counted 400 trees. There's a little bit of discussion about what's a tree and what's a shrub, but you know, I'll talk about this about one of my final slides, a little more about, you know, functional units and things like that, of what a tree shrub thing is. I don't know, but it is worth talking about. And then this accounted for 36 projects, and I thought I'd just point out that only 26 trees that we counted were evergreen conifers, even though they have a higher, you know, interception value. Okay, so of the 400 trees we counted, there were actually 59 that weren't there or were dead. And a lot of these numbers came from just a couple projects. So just keep that in mind. And of those projects, I'll talk about it a little more, but you know, there were some clear indications that additional design work for the tree could have helped prevent those issues. The incidence of the BMP causing, or the tree causing problem BMP performance, we often saw litter buildup inside the bioretention cells, but didn't see anything that I would consider to be that the bioretention system is not working anymore because of the tree. One municipality reported widespread damage. I have supplemental slides on that that I can't talk in detail about. So the one failure I saw for sure that looked suspicious, and it could have been caused by other things. This is a bioretention facility in Spokane. And when I'm talking about, when I talk about failure, it means it's no longer infiltrating. You know, there's something going on there. And you can see the pond of water there. And I don't know why that was happening. There were other adjacent facilities that were just like it and did see pond of water. So, and then this is the example from Longview where they had trouble with their trees and they had to take them out of their bioretention facilities. Okay, how big did the trees get? This is in meters, so I just happen to have a meter tape measure. So, and I didn't realize that we were still using feet, but there's a common measure of square feet and so on. But you can see that, you know, 4 to 6 meters, 6 meters is 20 feet or so. You can see that there's good frequency for trees in the 10 years of our program have actually either been planted higher or grown to significant size, as well as having some, you know, good crown spread. If we look at this slightly differently, just look at the distribution of the trees that we planted and were ranked. You can see that there are some trees that are 30 and 40 feet tall, 30 to 40 feet tall right now in one particular project, but most of them are smaller. And you can see this sort of shrubby area down here where some of those trees are going to get a lot bigger and some of them aren't because they don't get much bigger than that. I thought I'd put a shout out here to Mount Vernon's farmers market. These trees were planted in, I think, 2014 or actually no, 2016. They are doing well. If you look at how much canopy they're covering, this is when they were installed, the year they were installed, and it's totally filled in. So it's pretty dramatic. That is a big change. I pointed one in Olympia, South Sound Community College, South Puget Sound Community College. You can see, again, that one's filled in a lot. It's not insignificant. It's definitely playing a role in the performance of those facilities. And then in shoreline, didn't get to go up to this project till Friday to actually see what it looked like on ground level. But these are the black dots as the outline of facilities, black line, and then what's it look like now? Well, it's totally filled in. That is totally affecting the performance of that facility, enhancing it. And at ground level, we see that a lot of it's shrubs that were trimmed down to about 2 meters in height, with one or two larger trees inside the cell. So the tree's taller. So it's kind of got like a double canopy almost built within them. As far as maintenance issues go, people might suspect it looks like chaos under that, this kind of like dogwood, vine maple area, but it doesn't. I guess they must have used a leaf blower. I don't think my shoreline is here, but there wasn't buildup underneath there. And in fact, to me, it looked like it might be easier to maintain than a lot of the other ones we see. Okay, somewhere I wrote an acknowledgement slide and a conclusion slide. So the reservations, the hates that people have for storm trees versus the love, there's reasons for that, but I think bad news tends to resonate in our brains, and we have to be careful and be objective about overemphasizing the hardships we have with trees and putting them in versus the stormwater benefits. I could show more and more, but there are significant canopy benefits, significant success rates, and this only in 10 years. My personal opinion is that the tree investments that folks have put in have been worthwhile overall. I have several supplemental slides at the end of this presentation because I didn't really have time to go into case studies, but if you want to know more when you look at the presentation, there's many extra slides. Special thanks to Charlie Holbein, Sarah Ponte, Julius Stinson, Ebert, Xavier Gilbert, Annie Simpson, Hunter Lubin, and Tracy Jeffrey. Thanks.